all of you for coming to help show our appreciation for Joe Miller's work here at the university. If you read the Carroll News this morning, you found out a lot about Joe that you might not have known, such as he was the advisor of the Carroll News. He worked with Tim Russert, which I think many of us knew. And of course, he served as chair of a lot of departments at John Carroll, including physics. In other words, he's a man of many talents, and we're going to miss him.
Thank you.
So this afternoon, what we'd like to do is to just have some brief comments from people. I also wanted to mention a couple things. The Alumni Association has set up a comments page. There's little sheets of paper around tables, and if you wanted to leave Joe any kind of comments on the alumni page, you can just go to the link and leave your comments. We also are recording comments if you wanted to say anything in particular to Joe and his family, and we're going to make a DVD and then share it with Joe and his family. So be sure to stop by. Matt Crow and Lisa Lewis over here are taking comments and recording them. So we'll do that the rest of the afternoon. Last week we had our annual awards ceremony for the communication department, and at that ceremony we did honor Joe with a plaque thanking him for his 53 years of service, which you can see over here against the wall. And yesterday the College of Arts and Science honored all of our retirees this year with a crystal bowl. So Joe, so you have something to put in the crystal bowl. We'd like to present to you this box of your favorite snack, which is peanuts.
My day is complete. Thank you.
So as many of you know, Joe's had a big influence on a lot of people. This afternoon, there have been many people who came up to me to say, you know, Joe was my advisor when I was a student here. Or, you know, I remember, I think my wife said Joe was my advisor. And a lot of us can tell tales about how Joe's influenced our life. You know, the reason that I'm even here at John Carroll is because of Joe. I was hired here when I had a master's degree, and I liked teaching, and Joe said to me, well, you know, Mary, if you really want to teach, you better get that PhD, which, of course, I had never thought about until Joe mentioned it. So I did leave and got my PhD, and I've had a wonderful career in academics. So, Joe, I know that's just one little story of many people who could help you say that about you. Of course, the other person we have to honor is Helen Miller, because Helen has stayed with Joe 52 years. And one of the things that Helen was so gracious about when I was first here, Joe would always have a party at the beginning of the semester at his house. And it was such a great party because it was all about family and all of us working together and all of us having a feeling that we mattered here at John Carroll, and Helen was such a big part of that. And I still have the original brownie recipe that she gave me from that first party. So they were always willing to share and always willing for us to be part of their family and part of the John Carroll family. So we appreciate all of Helen's work the last 53 years also. So next, I'd like to introduce Dr. John Miller, also a communication person, who will introduce the rest of the family and a few other people who'd like to have some comments for Joe. John.
So I'm here too, in a sense, because of him. If it wasn't for Dad, I wouldn't be here. I have, as Mary, thank you very much, and I'd certainly like to appreciate and thank everybody who helped put all this together today, and for all of you to come out. It really is, for the family to see this is quite overwhelming, to see how Dad has influenced or has been involved in this institution. We heard growing up, and as a little child, I remember very clearly Mom making comments about Dad having to come to John Carroll to make sure that the administration building was still standing and that the tower had not fallen. I can only assume that those that are engineers in here are going to be a little concerned with Dad retiring because there will be nobody to hold that up. In my mind, I actually envisioned Dad holding the tower up. And I think in a sense, as we joke about that, it was really the other way around. It was the tower holding Dad up. Having now watched over the last, how old am I? 45 years. Seeing him interact, and now that I find myself in a classroom working with faculty and staff and knowing, and I've learned a lot from what you've done, and it's something that I think sometimes you don't appreciate how or see how much we are honored as being your children, and I know that means. And so Patty is here. Patty Miller, my sister. There are several cousins, granddaughters, grandsons, great-granddaughters are all here as well. And my brother Joe, Chris, and Patty, or Judy, were not able to attend, but they will be calling you later tonight. But I do know, well, yeah, well, of course, it's Dad. You have to call for more money, right? But I do know that there are other folks who do want to come and have a few words, and so we're going to leave the mic up. And if you have a few comments that you would like to make to Dad, please come on up and let's hear what you have to say. Well, I know, but that's why we did it.
I was observing the receiving line over there, and there's something a little odd about that, because you usually put the honored person here and they come by that. It kept moving that way. I didn't understand that. And then I remembered the expression, "in your face." And I said, I really didn't understand that until I had my first conversation with Joe.
We were invited to roast this good man. And Joe is such a good man, it seems unkind to roast him. But I confess, I'm taking real pleasure in doing it. It is good that Joe has fresh breath. He stands really close to you when he's talking to you. If people see us standing and talking, they think that Joe is going to confession. Or I'm going to confession to Joe. That might be better. Joe, as you know, is rather frugal. Truth is, he's really cheap. Helen told me he makes his own toothpaste. It's a mixture of baking soda and cottage cheese. Joe is so cheap that his wardrobe has gone out of style and come back into style 5 different times during his 53 years here. And in spite of his stature as a communications professor, Joe isn't beyond employing cliches. Do you get my meaning? Joe's so smart he thinks he might be talking over my head. The truth is, I seldom get his meaning. And then he'll say, with all due respect. Have you heard that one? We regulars at the so-called power table know how much Joe respects us. With all due respect. With all due respect, Joe might say, do you mind if I ask you why you are so dumb? Now, Joe Miller is donating his personal library to the in-between. It will be housed on a shelf beneath Clarissa's cash register, next to some hard-boiled eggs in those little clear plastic cartons. It's good Joe isn't paying for this goodbye reception. He's so cheap that if he had to foot the bill, we would be served those little packets of saltine crackers in those little clear, plastic. Oh, there would be eggs, too. There would be hard-boiled eggs, because he loves hard-boiled eggs.
Spare me.
I know if this were really Joe's reception, we would be eating saltine crackers and watered-down lemonade. Joe, we only roast the ones we love. And here the roast ends, at least for me. Joe Miller, you are one of the finest men I have ever met, and I will miss you. I end with a quote from Cicero. By the way, Joe reads Cicero in Latin.
Yes.
Nihil enim amabilius virtute. Nothing is more lovable than goodness. Joe, good friend, that bit of wisdom fits you to a T. God bless.
Oh, God.
As the newest member and by far the youngest member of the so-called power table, I was asked to say a few words about the last 3 years and getting to know Joe. Joe has been like a great-great-grandfather to me these last years. When I first arrived at John Carroll, a couple of my colleagues invited me to join them for lunch, and they kept referring to this table as the Joe Miller Memorial Table. I thought Joe Miller was dead. And it took having lunch with Joe for 3 or 4 weeks to be convinced otherwise. He's been a kind of ancient wisdom figure to me. Someone, a living, walking, constantly talking history of this place, to have outlived so many presidents and some vice presidents. Yes. It's been remarkable, this ancient voice echoing from the mists of time, barely audible, rarely relevant, like some nattering soliloquy from a world that no longer exists. Joe Miller is a beautiful human being, and he really, to me, exemplifies the phrase young at heart. It's been great getting to know you.
Thank you.
It's been great getting to know you.
Many years of having us here.
Thanks. Yeah, you are one of the kind.
Thanks.
Thank God.
Hello.
These people have dresses.
In case you don't know me, my name is David Wong. I work in the Provost and AVP's office. I met Joe about 12 years ago, and it was Joe who invited me to join the so-called power table. At first, I thought that he was the most welcoming person on campus. Later on, I found out that his real motive as he quizzed me every day on finances and accounting. Well, as if being a chair of physics, theology, graduate school, summer programs, etc., is not enough, I think he was actually making plans, making preparation to be the chair of the finance division. Using one of Joe's favorite lines, with due respect, Joe, enough is enough. Do you know that the undergraduate bulletin has a description about you about 3 inches long? Yes. I measured it today. Okay, that's the longest. It is not all about you, Joe. No. Now everyone knows Joe, and not only on campus, but elsewhere also. Now you know that Joe is a accreditation peer reviewer for the HLC. Right, so we were attending an HLC conference in Chicago recently, and I was talking with Joe in the hallway, and guess what? Everyone who walked past by say hello to Joe. So we didn't really chat too much. Now I like numbers, so I actually count how many people actually walk past by. I cannot tell you really, but the attendance was over 4,300 participants. So everybody knows Joe. Well, seriously, Joe, I want to thank you for your kindness, sincerity, friendship, and being a mentor to me. Happy retirement of Helen and your family. And there's one word I will use to describe Joe, and I go back to the Chinese philosophy. Confucius, one word, reciprocity. He respects people, and people give him back respect. Reciprocity, that's a word. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This will be short because you've been very patient with us from, it's the lunch bunch table. I don't know what that power's about, because I'm on it.
Neither do I.
Today's Carol News, front page. Some of you may not be aware. Chairman of the physics department, chairman of the philosophy department, dean of, it says here, graduate school. I have a question. Are there any credentials or any kind of credibility involved in these appointments in education? Surely I jest, but I just couldn't resist. Flexible, ultimately flexible, and until your car is stolen. Goes out just not long ago. His car's not there. Okay. So nervous. Campus security, filling out the information. John, will you call Helen and have her come and get me?
That's not true.
Let me finish and I can tell him it's not true. Oh, shoot, he blew it for me. So anyway, he blew it. She comes and said, oh, thank God, Helen, you're here. Thank God you're here. I dropped you off this morning. Hey, I think I did all right even though he blew it.
Yeah.
Oh, God. One last, I just want to do my impression of Joe. Just one impression. It's in our department. It's in the offices. Hey, how are you? Good? Hey, listen, have a great day. Everything all right? Okay, good. How are you doing? Is today going all right? We'll catch up. Okay, have a good... Wait, I'll be right back. What an ambassador. And truly, he has been, as the others have said, a joy. And I got invited to that table because of him. And into this department, the first person who told me to relax, this is not a difficult job to teach others. And he's lived it for 53 years. And I am privileged to call him my good friend. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I gave you a B, you can't do this.
I would have worn a tie, but they told me it was an extemporaneous speech. And I'm the only one at the power table that Joe actually taught in class when I was here in 1963. So I'm here to say congratulations. After 53 years, when one's around that long, many of their friends have retired or gone before them. All the old familiar scenes are gone. One pines for the old days, so I wanted to provide Joe with a picture that would bring back some memories of your first day at John Carroll. Is this something I'm supposed to open up? Yes, you can do that.
Dinosaurs roam the earth. The dinosaurs. Dinosaurs.
Thank you. You're welcome. This is my chance to up my grade, by the way.
It's too late.
In keeping with the moment, we wanted to present you with something that would commemorate your first year at John Carroll. So here is a proof 1961 nickel.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Commemorating the first year we're here.
That's right.
And also, the second nickel is even more important. This is the nickel commemorating the year that you taught me speech. It's a 1963 B.
Wonderful. Thanks.
They're both proofs.
Yeah, I get a bit.
Lastly, some of us in this room are old enough to remember the shrimpometer. Years ago, you could tell this by the size of the shrimp at the reception how important the individual or event was. Our budgets, unfortunately, do not allow for shrimp anymore. However, we wanted you to know how your colleagues feel about you and how important we think you've been to this university. So we couldn't find a real shrimp big enough, so we hope you'll accept this plaque of how we think about you. Oh, yeah. And also, just because we can't have shrimp doesn't mean that you and Helen can't. Do I get an A now?
No. Spare me. There are more?
Well, funny that Pete should ask about getting an A, because 47 years ago, a newly minted teacher wet behind the ears made a grievous mistake and gave Pete a B, not an A. And we haven't heard the end of it since then. And since this may be the last chance Joe has to rectify that situation, I brought a grade change form for Joe to sign. I see that Gene Colleran is over here. So once Joe signs it, I will bring it to Gene, and we will rectify this long-standing wrong.
Thank you very much. Take it back. Absolutely not.
Dr. Spencer gets it.
This could go on for a long time.
I'll be sure.
3 years.
So for those who don't know me, I'm Jim Burke in IT. When people hear I've been here now 29 years, they say, "You've been here forever." Just to set the record straight, I wasn't born yet when you started here, Joe. So as with Pete, you know, Joe loves to tell stories about people. So if you haven't heard this story from my dear friend Joe Miller here, he repeated it even today. Back when I was an undergrad and Joe was the associate dean, he waived a class for me. Now with Joe, you would think he waived the entire division of part of the core. No, one class. What you don't know and what he doesn't tell you is that it took me 154 credit hours to pry a degree out of this man. In all seriousness, you have been such an advisor and friend to so many people. We just want you to know how much we value your friendship. May God bless you and your lovely wife, Helen, as you retire. And Helen, if you need to get rid of them, get some peace and quiet around the house, send them over. We'll keep our eyes on them for you.
At the power table.
Wherever we need to.
I'm really not a member of the power table, but Joe has given me a visa at times, and I do appear at the power table, and they're always kind of amazed when I show up. But I just wanted to share a few comments. When I first met Joe Miller and he offered me a job here, he said I would have to clean the windows in addition to everything else. And I thought that was pretty good. You know, we were down the hall here in that department, we had no windows, so I was pretty safe, right? Those of you who know where we were at that time. Then we moved to O'Malley, and we had windows, but fortunately Joe was in the dean's office, so we didn't have to worry about it. But ever since he's moved back here with the office next to me, I have been worried that he's going to go in there and ask me to clean those windows again, so I just keep his shades closed. But seriously, I wanted to say from the time I met you, Joe, in 1973, I have been amazed by your openness. In fact, we even had a colleague who, when my husband was working for Squire Sanders at that time, who knew Joe, and I said, "Is he really for real? Is he that friendly and that open?" And he said yes, and he's a longtime friend of Joe's. But you have been my mentor, my advisor, my colleague, my consulting partner, and my friend since 1973. And you've extended that openness not only from yourself, but to your family. And our families have become such specially intertwined people that your family is a godfather to one of my children and a godparents to one of my grandchildren. So this is a special relationship that I really do cherish. And I said the other day at the College of Arts and Science meeting that you really have inspired others. Today, I want to tell you what an integral part your family and you have been to my family and me. I cannot imagine John Carroll without Joe Miller, although I will have to. But I don't have to imagine our family without your family. You are the best. Thank you.
and I'm going to speak. My name's Patty. I'm his beloved daughter and, of course, the favorite child. I'm here to interject a dose of reality into all these accolades. Dad, it's time to get a job now. And you cannot stay in the house unless you contribute. 1/3 of your check goes to the education fund, 1/3 goes to your savings, and the other third you may spend. Hopefully on Mom, and congratulations.
Yeah. Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. How many times have I used it? This is a little overwhelming. It's very overwhelming to have the opportunity to see all of you and greet all of you. And on a personal basis, I hope you won't mind if I say how much I've appreciated the opportunity to work with each and every one of you. As a young kid, a long, long time ago, I'm sorry to tell you, I learned a very important lesson which has characterized a lot of the things that I do. It's nice to hear all of this. It is really a reflection of that quality that I learned as a young kid. And that quality is that every person whom you deal with, every person whom you work with, every person whom you meet is a person who contributes to some dimension of your life, and I hope in turn I to them. And it's your job as a kid to contribute to their lives. And then ultimately the time will come when it will be their opportunity and we can reverse this. I want to tell you just a couple of other things and then I promise I'll quit. I'd like to tell you how I hired Jackie Schmidt. I'd like to tell you that when I called her and told her that there was a job, she was weeping on the telephone. I would like to tell you that I thought that the reason she was weeping was because she was thrilled to get the job. The truth of the matter was her gerbil had died. Turns out that the gerbil had accompanied her all through graduate school and through all of her doctoral work and everything else. You know how it is when you're working away and then all of a sudden it dies. And Jackie walked through the door and found a dead gerbil. And I think David had to commiserate with her. That's a true story, correct? That's right. And 2 minutes later, doesn't the phone ring? And it's me offering her the job, concluding that this weeping was a sign of her excitement and enthusiasm to be. And I've always interpreted people positively, as you probably are aware. And so that's a clear demonstration of the kind of a relationship that I've had with Jackie, with David, with the kids, and with all of you, I hope in a different kind of way. I could not have been successful here without the opportunity, and let me just take a second to acknowledge the most important person who has made this possible, as you may have suspected, is Helen. Helen and I have been married for 50, how many years? Not long enough.
Almost 54.
Almost 54 years. It meant that every time I left the house to hold up the tower at the university that you heard about before, I knew that the family was under complete control and that Helen could be relied upon as a person who would ensure that everything that needed to be done was done. Now the kids are laughing because they think that's not true. But the reality is there may have been some edicts laid down at the time I went out the door, but Helen was yes, Roberta, thank you very much. But the reality is, it really is Helen who has been responsible for making life so comfortable that I've been able to sustain it throughout all of these 54 years. Thank you very much. We're still
Can I say something?
No. We're still in love with one another? It depends on the day and the time, but you know how that goes, right? Those of you who are married. So,
when Joe was writing his dissertation, we had 5 children, very active in high school and getting a lot of phone calls. So Dad had to write this dissertation in pure quiet. And everybody observed that. And so he got his degree, or he turned it in and they said, okay, we get it. Okay. The kids did something, they pushed the door or something, and he slapped his fist down on the table and he said, "This will not happen again," just like he's always been doing while he wrote. They stood there and laughed. No more, Miller.
See what I have to put up with all these years? So, thank all of you. I do want to thank all of you, each of you individually, if we haven't already had an opportunity to greet one another, because I do mean what I said at the very beginning. Each of you has contributed to my well-being and to our well-being and to our satisfying life at the university. I've worked for great people here, with great people, not only with Jackie and David and Mary, but Nick and Fred and others of that nature. And today in the line, I had a great opportunity for David LaGuardia, whom many of you know, to remind me that David was in my first class at the university. You can draw your conclusions about how effective my teaching was based on his success, but he's not alone. There are a number of others of you here who have also been in classes, or Lisa, other people of that nature with whom I've had the pleasure to work, and other people whom I hope to continue to work with, at least on an informal basis, now and then. Well, you know what happens. I go home here now, we have a nice time, and yeah, I should be quiet, I understand that. And then when I come back tomorrow, they'll say, "Are you still here?" And a month from now or a year from now, they'll say, "Who the hell is he?" Yeah, but that's the life that we live. We change into a whole different perspective, and I'm looking forward to an opportunity to engage in that. But I leave here with a full recognition of the contribution that you have made to me, how much I've appreciated that, and how much I look forward to the continued opportunity, now and again, to greet you. Now, my friends in the power table have some serious doubts about that. They think that they have influence over all that's being done here. We, as you know, solve all of the problems of the world. We've solved the problems of, let's see, in the last week we've solved the problems of the Diocese of Cleveland, we've solved the problems of the city of Chicago, we've solved the problem of the city of Los Angeles, we've solved the federal government problem. So I look forward to an opportunity to continue to solve problems and to associate with all those good men and women whom you know. Power table is, of course, a stupid name because nobody has any power, but that's okay. That's part of the fun. I look forward to sharing the fun with you too, and I hope we can continue to do that, even informally, and even irregularly, and even occasionally. You've made my life a pleasure here, and it's because of you that I've been successful, and because of you that I've enjoyed every day, well, maybe not every day, but in any case, almost every day at the university. I'm enriched by these kids, by the grandchildren, and how fortunate we are that we now have not only our own 5 children, and Helen has 7 grandchildren. I'm too young to have grandchildren, as you know. And we now have 2 great-grandchildren, and those great-grandchildren are the little babies who are over there. So you know when you get married and they say something at the ceremony about living to see your children and your children's children, how lucky have we been, both of us, to see our children in good health, successful, our grandchildren achieving maturity, several of them are professionals on their own, a couple of them are over here, and we hope that in a few years those little kids will be students at John Carroll University. Please remember it's Miller, M-I-L-E-R, it's A after their name. Will that be okay? Thanks very much for your friendship. Best wishes to all of you.
Way to go, Joe.
Dr. Miller is, and I say this with all confidence, he is the most approachable professor at John Carroll. He seriously is. I mean that with all my heart. He's always in his office. His door is always completely open to any student that wants to come in. And I cannot imagine anyone in the world that could replace him. And I know that he's going to be missed. And I want to thank you for putting up so much.
Joe, best wishes in retirement. I wanted to make sure I took the time to thank you for being the face of John Carroll for me during my first summer here in 2008. You may remember One day I wandered down to the outdoor tables at Einstein. I sat down at a table by myself, and you were at another table with John Spencer, and you both beckoned me over to join you for lunch, and it's been a great joy to join you for lunch as many days as I've been able over the last 6 years. I hope you will not be a stranger to John Carroll or to the so-called power table. We need your sage advice, not only about the problems of Chicago and New York, but also the Ukraine, Notre Dame football, of course, and what the latest developments in the Catholic Church, which you no doubt will be able to help us resolve. All best wishes, and thanks, Joe, for all the good times we've had at the table and in the business that we've been able to do for the good of John Carroll. Thank you very much.
Dr. Joseph Miller, I'd like to thank you for being my advisor for the past 4 years at John Carroll. And I'd like to thank you for the business and professional speaking skills that give me the ability to talk to you right now through this camera and connect to you as my target audience. I know I was your best student. You never had to tell me. I already knew. So I hope you enjoy your retirement. I really am going to miss you. Let's keep in touch. And I can't wait to see what you do next. I'll see you later.
Hello, Dr. Miller, Joe. I want to thank you for all your help that you've given me, especially when I first started in the department. And for scaring me every time I turn around a corner, you're always there. But I do appreciate your help, and I wish you best wishes for you and your family, and you can get to spend more time with them. Best of luck. See you soon.
Hi, Joe. Eric Patterson here. I just wanted to take a second to thank you for everything that you've done for me ever since I found my way to John Carroll. All the times you took me under your wing, gave me very sage and fatherly advice on the people and the processes and even when necessary the politics. Here at John Carroll, your advice to me has always been spot on, helpful, accurate, and I truly will be at a loss sometimes what to do once you've moved on. Please don't be a stranger. I'll be on campus for years to come and hope to see you here. Bye-bye.
Hi, Joe. Happy retirement to you, and happy retirement with Helen and your family. My best wishes to you, and I hope to see you coming back and visit the power table every now and then, so that we can harass you. And with due respect, Joe, we love you.
Well, it's wonderful to be able to give kudos to Joe as we celebrate his retirement. I've already told him that we want him back, and we very much need him at the table he's accustomed to be at for lunch. Years ago, when he was associate dean and I was assistant dean, we both had to greet the incoming freshmen as they came in orientation. And he used to say, "Never let a professor of communications get up here to talk to you, because they'll go on." We had agreed it was a 7-minute talk. At 10 to 12 minutes, I yelled out one time, "Get the hook." And it was very well received by the crowd. But he's a great man, and fun to work with him over many, many years. He came just a little ahead of me, and we've been here ever since together. So all the best, Joe, and God bless, and don't be a stranger.
Hi, Joe. I would have dressed, except they told me that this was going to be an impromptu speech, so I didn't wear much. I wish you all the luck. You've done great things for John Carroll. You've probably had more chairs than a dining room table while you were here. I thank you for all the work that you've done, for your service to your country. All the friends that you've made here are going to miss you, and I think some of the administration is going to miss your kind of quiet wisdom. I guess that's all I have to say about that.
I want to send my congratulations to Joe, and hey, it's been good times, and wish you all the good times for all the good times ahead. Thank you.
Joe, just wanted to stop by and say congratulations
after 53 years of service here at John Carroll University. I want to say thank you, Joe, many times over for all the things we have shared together, but most importantly, when I became dean and you agreed to be my associate dean, that was the best thing that ever happened in all of this time that I had at John Carroll, because without your real help in all of that, I don't know how I would have survived. So it's been a pleasure knowing you for many, many years. We just need to make sure that you enjoy retirement half as much as I've been enjoying retirement for the past 2 years. Blessings to you and your family. Thank you.